You think respect comes with a gun? When I'm done with you, the only name you'll speak is mine.
When a black waitress dared to drench the most feared man in Seoul, the entire five-star restaurant held its breath. She didn't know his empire. She didn't flinch. Everyone expected her body in the Han River by morning. Instead, he left $50,000 on her wet table and vanished. And when his black SUVs started following her home every night, she realized something terrifying. He wasn't coming to destroy her. He was coming to keep her. Because defiance had sparked obsession, and obsession had turned into something far more consuming. The water hit his face like a declaration of war. For 3 seconds, the private dining room of Lumiere Seoul existed in a vacuum.
Nobody's.
No movement. Just the sound of ice cubes skittering across Italian marble and the wet slap of liquid against $1,000 silk. Amanda's arm was still extended, the empty pitcher trembling in her grip. She hadn't planned this. Hadn't woken up that morning thinking she'd commit career suicide before lunch service. But when the man in the charcoal suit had snapped his fingers at Minji, sweet, 20-year-old Minji, who was working double shifts to send money home to Busan, and called her too stupid to understand a simple wine order, something in Amanda's chest had cracked clean open. She'd walked over, picked up the ice water pitcher from the service station,
And poured.
Now, watching the water drip from his razor-sharp jaw onto his white collar, she waited for the world to end. Ji-hoon didn't move, didn't wipe his face, didn't even blink. His dark eyes fixed on her with the kind of stillness that prey animals recognize 1 second before the kill. Around the table, 6 men in identical expensive suits had frozen mid-reach for their inner jacket pockets. "Power doesn't give you the right to be a dog," Amanda heard herself say. Her voice didn't shake. That surprised her. One of the board members made a choking sound. Another whispered something in rapid Korean that she didn't catch, but the fear in his tone translated perfectly. Ji-hoon's hand rose, slowly, deliberately, and every gun in the room shifted beneath tailored wool. But he only touched his dripping chin with 2 fingers, studied the water there like it was blood, then looked back at Amanda with something that might have been curiosity if it wasn't so cold. "Your name," he said. His voice was quiet, polite even. That made it worse. "Amanda." She refused to add ma'am or sir, or please don't kill me. "Amanda." He tested it, tasted it. His head tilted fractionally. "Do you know what happens to people who embarrass me in front of my associates?" She should have apologized. Should have dropped to her knees and begged. Instead, she met his predatory gaze and said, "I know what happens to people who treat service workers like dirt in my section." Something flickered across his face, surprise, maybe, or recognition. He stood in one fluid movement, water still dripping from his hair onto his shoulders. His guards tensed. Amanda's heart hammered against her ribs so hard she thought it might crack through. Ji-hoon reached into his jacket. "This is it," she thought. "This is how I die." He pulled out a money clip, peeled off bills without counting, and dropped them on the table. They landed in the puddle of ice water with a soft splash. "Keep the change," he said, then walked past her close enough that she could smell his cologne, bergamot and something darker, like smoke. At the door, he paused. Didn't turn around. "We'll see each other again, Amanda." It sounded like a promise and a threat. Amanda first noticed the SUVs on Tuesday. Black. Tinted windows like bruises. They idled at the bus stop across from Lumiere, engines purring, and when her Route 47 pulled away, one of them followed. Not aggressively. Not obviously. Just there, 3 cars back, patient as a stalking cat. She told herself it was paranoia. Seoul had thousands of black luxury vehicles. This meant nothing. By Thursday, she'd counted 3 different SUVs rotating shifts. Morning bus, the one with the chrome trim. Evening route, the matte finish model that looked like it cost more than her entire life. Late night, when she transferred at Gangnam Station, a 3rd one materialized from the underground parking ramp and trailed her all the way to her neighborhood in Songdong-gu. They never came close, never tried to box her in, just watched. Amanda started taking different routes. Got off 2 stops early, and walked. Doubled back, through convenience stores. Nothing worked. The SUVs adapted like they had her schedule programmed into their dashboard computers. On Friday, her landlord called. "Miss Carter, there's been a mistake with your account." Amanda's stomach dropped. She was already 2 weeks late on rent, stretched thin from sending money to her sister Zoe's university fund. "I know, Mr. Park. I get paid next week. I can—"
No, no.
"You misunderstand." He sounded confused, flustered. "Your rent. For the year. It's been paid. In full. Cash delivery this morning." The phone nearly slipped from her hand. "What?" "I tried to find out who sent it, but the courier just left an envelope with your apartment number." "Very unusual. I thought maybe family." She had no family in Korea except Zoe. And Zoe was surviving on ramen and scholarship money. "How much?" Amanda's voice came out strangled. 14 million won. Exact amount for 12 months, including the utilities deposit. 24 hours later, the flowers arrived. Not a bouquet. An invasion. White orchids in a crystal vase, so large it barely fit through her apartment door. No card. No note. Just flowers that probably cost more than her monthly salary, delivered by a man in a black suit who wouldn't meet her eyes. Amanda stood in her cramped studio, surrounded by obscenely beautiful flowers, and felt the walls closing in. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Do you feel safer now?" Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She should block this. Should go to the police. Should do anything except respond. But she thought of those SUVs, always 3 cars back. Thought of her rent paid in full. Her sister's tuition suddenly less impossible. Thought of that cold, predatory voice saying we'll see each other again like it was inevitable as sunrise. Amanda typed, "I didn't ask for this." The reply came instantly. "You didn't have to. You're mine now. You just don't know it yet." She stared at the message until her screen went dark, her reflection ghostly in the black glass. Outside her window, a familiar SUV idled beneath the streetlight, patient and unmoving, waiting. The call came at 1:47 a.m. Amanda was already in bed, exhausted from a double shift, when her manager's panicked voice crackled through the speaker. "You need to come back. Now. Someone's rented out the entire restaurant. They're asking for you specifically. At 2 in the morning? Tell them we're closed." "Amanda." His voice dropped to a whisper. "They paid 50 million won. Cash. For 2 hours. And there are men outside with guns." She knew before she arrived. Knew it in the sick twist of her stomach as the taxi pulled up to Lumiere's glowing windows. Knew it when she saw the black SUVs forming a perimeter around the block like military checkpoints. Inside, the restaurant was empty except for one table. Ji-hoon sat in the center of the dining room, perfectly still in another immaculate suit, this one midnight blue, almost black. Every other table had been cleared away, creating a strange theater where he was both audience and performer. Candles flickered. Classical music played softly from hidden speakers. He didn't look up when she entered. "You can go," he said to her manager, who fled so fast he left the door swinging. Amanda stayed by the entrance, arms crossed. "This is insane." "Seat." "No." Now he looked at her. Those dark, heavy-lidded eyes tracked her like she was something fascinating and dangerous in equal measure. "I rented the building. You're technically working. So work. I'm not serving you. Then just stand there." He leaned back, one arm draped over the empty chair beside him. "I'll pay by the hour." The audacity made her jaw clench. "What do you want? An apology?" "For what? Being right?" Something flickered across his face, amusement, maybe, or anger so cold it looked like pleasure. He stood, and even across the empty room, she felt the shift in air pressure, like a storm system moving in. "Do you understand what you did?" He walked toward her slowly, hands in his pockets, utterly relaxed. "In my world, disrespect is paid in blood. People have died for less than a dirty look. Then I guess I should be dead." He stopped 3 feet away, close enough that she could see the faint scar through his eyebrow, the water damage still barely visible on his collar from 4 days ago. Yes, he said quietly. You should be. So why aren't I? The question hung between them like a blade. Ji-hoon studied her face, really looked like he was trying to solve an equation that didn't make sense. When he spoke again, his voice carried something she hadn't heard before. Confusion, maybe even vulnerability. Because when you poured that water, you weren't afraid of me. Everyone is afraid of me, Amanda. Everyone. Except you. He reached out and touched her chin, just 2 fingers, tilting her face up toward the light. And I haven't decided yet if that makes you the bravest person I've ever met or the most foolish. His thumb brushed her bottom lip. Either way, you're not going anywhere. The lunch rush was winding down when the motorcycle pulled up outside. Amanda was clearing table 6, her mind still circling back to last night, to Ji-hoon's thumb on her lip, to the way he'd finally left at dawn without another word, leaving 5 million on the bar like it was nothing. She didn't hear the engine cut, didn't see the rider dismount, but she heard Minji scream. The front window exploded inward in a shower of glass and thunder. Amanda's body hit the floor on instinct, arms covering her head as bullets chewed through upholstery and wood. Someone was yelling in Korean. Customers shrieked and scattered. The espresso machine erupted in a spray of steam and metal. It lasted maybe 10 seconds. Felt like 10 hours. Then silence. Ringing silence. Amanda lifted her head. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely push herself up. Blood on the white tiles, not hers. An elderly man by the window was clutching his shoulder, his wife sobbing over him. Minji was behind the counter, unhurt but frozen in shock. The motorcycle was already gone. Amanda's manager appeared from the kitchen, phone pressed to his ear, shouting for ambulances. She stood on wobbling legs, her apron splattered with someone else's blood, her ears still screaming with phantom gunfire. Outside, tires shrieked. 3 black SUVs converged on the diner like wolves responding to a distress call. Doors flew open before the vehicles fully stopped. Men in dark suits poured out, weapons drawn, forming a perimeter. Then Ji-hoon emerged from the center vehicle. He moved like violence in a tailored package, fast, controlled, lethal. His eyes scanned the shattered restaurant, cataloging damage and casualties in seconds. When his gaze found Amanda standing in the wreckage, something in his expression cracked. He was inside in 4 strides. Are you hurt? His hands were on her shoulders, turning her, checking for wounds. The careful control was gone.
This was raw, desperate. Ivy fine.
There's a man he needs. My people are calling it in. His fingers moved to her face, tilting it to check for cuts. Did you see who did this? Motorcycle. 1 rider.
I didn't.
Dong essay. He said it like a curse. His jaw clenched so tight she heard his teeth grind. They wanted me to know they could reach you. The implication hit her like a second round of bullets. This was because of you? Yes.
No apology. No deflection.
Just that single word, heavy with truth. Amanda shoved his hands away. Someone could have died. That man, he was just eating lunch, and now he's... I know. Ji-hoon caught her wrists before she could push him again. Which is why you're not staying here. Excuse me? You're coming with me.
Now.
Like hell I am. His grip tightened. Not painful, but immovable. When he spoke again, his voice was so quiet it was almost gentle. They've already sent 1 message, Amanda. The next one comes with a body count. I won't let it be yours. Outside, ambulance sirens wailed closer. Ji-hoon didn't wait for her answer. He simply pulled her toward the door, through the shattered glass, into his world. She didn't fight him. The penthouse occupied the entire 42nd floor. Amanda stood in the entrance, still wearing her blood-splattered apron, and tried to process the sheer obscenity of space. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Seoul like the city was a kingdom laid out for viewing. White marble, black leather, art that probably cost more than her entire neighborhood. A gilded cage. Your room is through there. Ji-hoon gestured toward a hallway that seemed to stretch forever. He'd shed his jacket in the car, rolled his sleeves to his elbows. Even disheveled, he looked like he owned the world. Bathroom stocked. Clothes in your size are in the closet. Amanda turned slowly. How do you know my size? I know everything about you. He said it casually, like it wasn't the most invasive thing she'd ever heard. Birth date, sister's university, your mother's grave in Atlanta. The scar on your left knee from when you were 7. Her blood went cold. You had me investigated. The moment you walked away from that table alive. She couldn't find a word big enough for the violation. You're insane. I'm feral. He moved to the bar, poured whiskey into crystal that caught the city lights like trapped stars. There's a difference. Is there? Amanda's voice cracked. The adrenaline from the shooting was finally draining, leaving her hollow and shaking. Because from where I'm standing, this looks like a kidnapping. Ji-hoon paused, glass halfway to his lips. When he looked at her, something in his expression softened, barely, almost imperceptibly, but there. You're not a prisoner, Amanda. There's a private elevator. Code is 0824. Your birthday. You can leave whenever you want. Really? She didn't believe him. Really? He took a slow sip. But those men on motorcycles? They'll be waiting. And next time, they won't miss. The words hit like a fist. Because he was right. She'd seen the calculation in how they'd shot up the diner. Maximum terror, minimal accuracy. A warning. Next time would be an execution. How long? Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. Until I end this. End what? The war I've been avoiding. He set down his glass with a soft click. Dong Sae wants my territory. They think you're my weakness now. They're right. The admission hung between them, raw and unexpected. Amanda wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly aware of how much she was shaking. I didn't ask for any of this. I just wanted to work, send money to Zoe, live my life. I know. He moved toward her slowly, like approaching something wounded. But the moment you didn't flinch when I looked at you, the moment you stood your ground, you became something I couldn't ignore. He stopped close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from him. I'm sorry, he said quietly, for bringing my world to your door. But I'm not sorry for keeping you alive. Outside the windows, Seoul glittered like fallen stars. Amanda looked at the city, at the golden cage, at the man who'd turned her life into a war zone with nothing but his obsessive attention. Show me where the bedroom is, she finally said. I need to get this blood off me.
Yeon nodded.
Almost smiled. Welcome home, Amanda. Ji-hoon came home at 3 a.m. with blood on his knuckles. Amanda heard the private elevator chime from her room. The guest room, she kept reminding herself, even though it was twice the size of her old apartment. She'd been awake anyway, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Zoe's worried texts and the life she'd left behind 4 days ago. She found him in the kitchen, running cold water over his split knuckles like it was routine. His shirt was half unbuttoned, revealing bruises blooming across his ribs in shades of purple and blue. You should see the other guy, he said without looking up. That's not funny. Wasn't meant to be. He shut off the water, reached for a dish towel. Amanda crossed the marble floor before she could second-guess herself. Stop. You're going to get it infected. She took his hand, his dangerous, blood-stained hand, and examined the damage. Where's your first aid kit? Bathroom. 3rd drawer. She returned with supplies and made him sit at the kitchen island. Under the pendant lights, she could see the full extent of it. The split knuckles, the bruise forming along his jaw, the way he held his left side like his ribs were screaming. What happened? She dabbed antiseptic on the wounds. He didn't flinch. Negotiations. With fists. Sometimes that's the only language people understand. His dark eyes tracked her movements as she worked. You should be asleep. So should you. She wrapped gauze around his knuckles with practiced efficiency, years of patching up Zoe's skateboarding accidents coming back. Hold still. He obeyed. Something about that, This lethal man sitting quietly while she tended his wounds made her chest feel strange. The scar, Amanda said, nodding toward his eyebrow. On your face. How'd you get it? Ji-hoon went very still. For a moment she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, I was 12. My father was teaching me about loyalty. His voice was flat, emptied of emotion. There was a man who'd stolen from our family. My father gave me a knife and told me to cut off the man's finger. Amanda's hands paused. I refused. Said it was wrong. My father backhanded me so hard I hit the concrete. The ring he wore. Ji-hoon touched the scar reflexively. Split my eyebrow open. 14 stitches.
Jesus.
He made me watch while he did it himself. The finger. Then he told me that mercy was a luxury our family couldn't afford. That scar reminds me what weakness costs. Amanda set down the gauze and did something reckless. She reached up and traced the scar with her thumb, gentle, deliberate. That's not weakness, she said quietly. That was a 12-year-old boy who knew right from wrong. His hand came up and caught her wrist. Not rough, almost reverent. You see things in me that aren't there, Amanda. Or maybe you've forgotten they exist. They stayed like that, her fingers against his face, his hand circling her wrist, the city sleeping 42 floors below. Stay, he whispered. Not a command. A plea. She didn't move. I'm already here. His thumb brushed the inside of her wrist, feeling her racing pulse. Good. The dress arrived at noon with no explanation. Midnight blue silk that moved like water. A neckline that dipped just low enough to be dangerous. When Amanda tried it on, it fit like Ji-hoon had mapped every curve of her body from memory alone. Probably had. We have an event tonight, he said when she emerged from her room. He was already dressed, black tuxedo, hair slicked back, looking like old money and new violence. His eyes tracked over her slowly. You look like arm candy for a crime lord? Like you could bring this entire city to its knees. He offered his arm. Shall we? The gala was at the Shilla Hotel, all crystal chandeliers and champagne towers. Korea's elite packed the ballroom. Tech moguls, politicians, old family money. And threading through it all, men in expensive suits with dangerous eyes. Ji-hoon's world, dressed up and pretending to be civilized. The stares started immediately. Amanda felt them like physical touch, curious, assessing, hostile. A black woman on Ji-hoon's arm was a statement she hadn't agreed to make. Whispers followed in their wake, Korean words she didn't need translated to understand their venom. Ignore them, Ji-hoon murmured, his hand settling possessively on the small of her back. They're wondering who you are to command my attention. And what's the answer? His smile was sharp enough to cut.
Mean it.
A man approached, silver-haired, expensive watch, predatory smile. He spoke to Ji-hoon in rapid Korean, but his eyes stayed on Amanda like she was a curiosity in a museum. Ji-hoon's response was cold and clipped. The man's smile faltered. What did he say? Amanda asked after he retreated. He asked if you were for rent by the hour. Ji-hoon's voice was dangerously soft. I told him the next person who disrespects you loses their tongue. Before she could respond, music swelled, something classical and sweeping. Couples began moving toward the dance floor. Ji-hoon turned to her, hand extended. Dance with me. I don't. I know. Just follow my lead. His arms circled her waist, pulling her close. They moved into the waltz, and somehow her body knew how to follow his, like they'd done this 1,000 times before, in a life where he wasn't a monster, and she wasn't his captive prize. You're doing it again, she said softly. What? Making me forget what you are. His hand tightened on her waist. And what am I? Dangerous. Possessive. A man who solves problems with violence. Yes. His breath was warm against her temple. But when I'm with you, I remember what I could be. Around them, the room watched. Korea's most feared crime lord, dancing with a waitress from Songdong-gu like she was the only person in the world who mattered. And for 3 minutes, She let herself pretend that this was real, that they were just two people dancing, that his world wasn't closing in around them like a fist. When the music ended, Ji-hoon didn't let her go. "Stay close tonight," he whispered. "Something feels wrong." He was right. Across the ballroom, a man was watching them with murder in his eyes. The call came during breakfast. Amanda's phone buzzed on the marble counter, and she almost didn't answer. Another spam call, probably. But something made her look at the screen. Unknown number. Seoul area code. She swiped to answer. "Hello." Heavy breathing. Then a voice, young and terrified. "Amanda?" Every cell in her body went cold. "Zoe. They said to tell you." Her sister's voice cracked. In the background, men were speaking in Korean, laughing. "Oh God, Amanda, I'm so scared." The phone was ripped away. A new voice came on, male and amused. "Amanda Carter. Your sister is very pretty. Good bone structure. She'll fetch a nice price if Ji-hoon doesn't cooperate." Amanda's vision tunneled. "Don't you fucking touch her. Then deliver a message." The voice turned cold. "Ji-hoon comes to the old Hanam warehouse. Midnight. Alone. Or we start sending pieces of her back to you." The line went dead. Amanda stood frozen, phone clutched in her shaking hand. The world tilted sideways.
Zoe.
Her baby sister. The girl she'd raised after their mother died. The reason she was in Korea in the first place. Amanda. She turned. Ji-hoon stood in the doorway, holding coffee, his expression shifting from calm to lethal the moment he saw her face. What happened? Not a question. A demand. "They have Zoe." Her voice didn't sound like hers. "They want you at some warehouse. Alone. Midnight." The coffee mug hit the counter. Ji-hoon already had his phone out, barking orders in Korean. Within seconds, the penthouse was swarming with armed men. Where does she live? Ji-hoon's hand was on her shoulder, forcing her to focus. "Amanda, look at me." "Where?" "University housing. Yonsei." Amanda's breath came in jagged gasps. She was supposed to be in class. How did they? "They've been watching. Waiting for leverage." His jaw clenched. "How long ago was the call?" 2 minutes. Maybe 3. "Then she's still in the city." He turned to his second in command, spoke rapid-fire Korean. The man nodded and disappeared. Amanda grabbed Ji-hoon's arm. "If you don't go, they'll kill her. If I go, they'll kill us both. It's a trap." "I don't care." Her voice broke. "That's my sister. She's all I have. Please." Something in his expression cracked. He pulled her against his chest, one hand cradling the back of her head. "Listen to me," he said quietly. "I will get her back, but not by walking into an ambush." "Then how?" He pulled back, and the man looking at her wasn't the careful crime lord or the almost gentle presence from last night. This was the monster everyone feared, cold, calculating, already 3 moves ahead. "I'm going to burn their entire operation to the ground." His thumb brushed away a tear she didn't know she'd shed. "And I'm going to make them regret they ever learned your name." He kissed her forehead. "Stay here. Don't leave this building."
Yo.
But he was already gone, moving like violence incarnate, his men flowing behind him like a dark tide. Amanda sank to the floor, phone still clutched in her hand, and prayed to a god she hadn't spoken to in years. Please. Not Zoe. Anyone but Zoe. Ji-hoon returned at 4 a.m. with Zoe in his arms and blood on his face that wasn't his. Amanda heard the elevator and ran. Her sister was unconscious, but breathing, a bruise blooming across her cheek, zip-tie marks raw around her wrists. Ji-hoon carried her like she weighed nothing, his white shirt soaked crimson, his knuckles split open and still bleeding. "She's alive," he said before Amanda could scream.
Drugged.
"She'll wake up in a few hours." Amanda took Zoe from him with shaking hands, carried her to the guest bed, checked her pulse, her breathing, the bruises. When she was sure, absolutely sure, her sister would survive, she turned back to Ji-hoon. He stood in the doorway like a ghost, like something that had crawled out of hell and couldn't quite remember how to be human. What did you do? Amanda whispered. What I had to.
Yihon.
What did you do? He was silent for a long moment. Then, there were 8 men holding her in a container at the port. Now there are none. The words hung in the air, flat and final. You killed them. Yes. All of them. Every single one.
No remorse. No hesitation.
He pulled off his ruined shirt, revealing more bruises, a knife wound across his ribs that was still seeping. They hurt her. They would have done worse. So I made sure they'll never hurt anyone again. Amanda's hands went to her mouth. She'd known, intellectually, what Ji-hoon was. But knowing and seeing were different things. This was the monster everyone whispered about. The man who'd built an empire on fear and blood. There's more, he said quietly. The Dong SAE second in command. The one who ordered the hit. I found him at his club in Gangnam. And he's in the Han River. Ji-hoon's eyes were flat, empty, in pieces. Amanda felt the floor tilt.
Jesus Christ.
I did what you asked. I got your sister back. He moved toward her, and she instinctively stepped back. He noticed.
Stopped.
Something flickered across his face. Pain, maybe. Now you see it. What I am. What I've always been. You're a murderer. Yes. You're exactly what everyone says. A monster in an expensive suit. Yes. He didn't defend himself. Didn't make excuses. But I'm a monster who would burn this entire city down before I let them touch the people he stopped. Swallowed. Before I let them touch you. Amanda looked at him, really looked at the blood and bruises. At the knife wound he hadn't bothered treating. At the exhaustion in his eyes that came from being what everyone needed him to be. A weapon. A shield. A monster. You're bleeding, she finally said. I know. Sit down. Let me clean it. Amanda.
Sit.
Down. He obeyed. Because even covered in blood, even after killing 8 men with his bare hands, he'd do what she asked. She got the first aid kit and started cleaning the knife wound. Neither of them spoke, but when she pressed the bandage to his ribs, his hand covered hers. I'm sorry you had to see this part of me. I know what you are now, she whispered. All of it. And Amanda looked at her sleeping sister.
Alive.
Safe. Because of him. And I'm still here. The meeting happened in a room that didn't officially exist. Ji-hoon sat at a table with 5 men who collectively controlled Seoul's underworld. The council, they called themselves, though their power extended far beyond criminal enterprise. Politicians. Judges. Police commissioners. The machinery that kept the city running in shadows. Chairman Kwon spoke first, his voice smooth as aged whiskey. The Dong SAE situation has become problematic. Their leadership is decimated. Their territory is yours for the taking. I'm listening, Ji-hoon said. We're prepared to offer you complete control. Shipping, pharmaceuticals, the ports, the casinos. Everything. Kwon slid a leather folder across the table. You'd be untouchable. The sole authority south of the river. Ji-hoon didn't open it. In exchange for the American woman. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Explain, Ji-hoon said softly. Another man, Prosecutor General Lee, leaned forward. Your involvement with her has drawn attention. International attention. The American embassy is asking questions. We need a narrative that cleans this up. What narrative? That she was trafficking information. Industrial espionage. We have documents prepared. Testimony arranged. She'll serve 5 years in a Korean prison, then be deported. Quietly. Efficiently. Ji-hoon's expression didn't change. She's innocent. Innocence is a matter of documentation, Lee said. And documentation can be created. You frame her, and I get an empire. Ji-hoon's voice was perfectly level. Is that the offer? It's more than fair, Kwon said. 1 woman for everything you've built your life toward. The power to reshape this city however you see fit. Ji-hoon looked at the folder. at the future laid out in legal documents and blood money. Everything his father had wanted for him. Everything he'd been raised to achieve. Total control. He thought of Amanda tending his wounds at 3 a.m., of her standing her ground in a destroyed diner, of the way she looked at him like he could be more than this.
No, he said.
The room went silent.
No.
Kwan's eyebrows rose. You heard me. Ji-hoon stood, buttoned his jacket. Amanda Carter is off limits.
Non negotiable.
If you move against her, I'll consider it an act of war against me personally. You're choosing a waitress over an empire? Lee sounded genuinely confused. I'm choosing the only person in this entire fucking city who isn't afraid to tell me when I'm wrong. Ji-hoon picked up the folder and dropped it in front of Kwan. Keep your crown. I'm done playing king. You're making a mistake, Kwan said quietly. Walk away from this table, and you walk away from everything. Our protection, our resources, our silence. Then I'll build something new. Ji-hoon moved toward the door. Something that doesn't require me to sacrifice the one good thing in my life. She's made you weak, Prosecutor Lee spat. Ji-hoon paused at the threshold, looked back.
No.
She's made me remember what strength actually means. He left them sitting there, 5 men who'd never understood that some things, some people, were worth more than power. By the time he reached his car, his phone was already buzzing with threats. Ji-hoon ignored them all and called Amanda. Pack your things, he said when she answered. We're leaving Seoul. What happened? I just chose you over everything. Now we run. The shipping docks at Incheon smelled like salt water and diesel fuel. Ji-hoon's men had loaded 3 containers with everything that mattered. Cash, documents, the ledgers that could bring down half of Seoul's elite. Insurance, he'd called it. Amanda knew it was a funeral pyre waiting to be lit. How long do we have? She asked, watching him pour gasoline over 20 years of carefully documented crimes. 20 minutes. Maybe less. He struck a match, held it up. The flame cast shadows across his face. They'll come from the north entrance. My old second-in-command sold me out to the council. He's leading the assault himself. Zoe's in the car? Safe. 3 miles away with my best driver. He dropped the match. The ledgers caught instantly, flames climbing toward the container's ceiling. She doesn't need to see this. Neither do I. Ji-hoon looked at her across the fire. Then go. There's still time. You know I'm not leaving. Something softened in his expression, pride, maybe, or resignation. I know. The first gunshots came 7 minutes later. They poured through the north gate like Ji-hoon had predicted, 20 men, maybe more, tactical gear and automatic weapons. Ji-hoon's remaining loyalists returned fire from behind shipping containers, but they were outnumbered 3-1. Stay down, Ji-hoon ordered, pressing Amanda behind a concrete barrier. He checked his gun, a sleek black pistol that looked like an extension of his hand. When I move, you run for the south exit. Don't look back.
Yeah.
Promise me. I can't. A bullet sparked off the metal above their heads. Ji-hoon pulled her close, kissed her hard, desperate and final, like he was memorizing the taste of her. I love you, he said against her lips. I need you to know that before. The explosion cut him off. His second-in-command had brought grenades. The container with the burning ledgers erupted in a fireball, sending flaming documents spiraling into the night sky like dying stars. Men screamed. Metal shrieked. Ji-hoon used the chaos to move, fluid, lethal, inhuman. Amanda watched him cut through enemies like they were practice targets, each shot precise, each movement calculated. This was the monster everyone feared, stripped of pretense and expensive suits. But he was bleeding. Shot in the shoulder, the thigh. Still moving, but slower. Amanda screamed as another enemy rounded the corner. He turned, but too slow. The bullet caught him in the chest. He went down hard, pistol skittering across concrete. Amanda didn't think. She grabbed his fallen gun and fired 3 shots, barely aimed, pure adrenaline. The man dropped. She reached Ji-hoon as he coughed blood onto the dock. His vest had caught most of it, but broken ribs, maybe worse. The water, he gasped. Have to make them think. She understood. They dragged each other to the edge of the dock. Below, black water churned. Ji-hoon pulled off his jacket, his signet ring, threw them in. Together, he whispered. Amanda took his hand. Together. They fell into the freezing darkness, and Ji-hoon's empire burned bright above them. When they surfaced 100 yards downstream, the docks were silent except for sirens. The underworld believed him dead. Finally, he was free. The morning sun turned the kitchen gold. Amanda cracked eggs into a bowl, humming something she'd heard on the radio. Through the open window, waves crashed against the rocks below their cottage, a steady, peaceful rhythm that had become the soundtrack of their life. Salt air, seabirds.
No sirens. No gunfire.
No black SUVs idling in the shadows. Just morning. Arms circled her waist from behind. Ji-hoon, though he went by James here, a name that sat awkwardly on his tongue but kept them invisible, pressed a kiss to her shoulder. You're up early, she said, leaning back into him. Couldn't sleep. His hands settled over hers, helping whisk the eggs even though she didn't need help. Old habits. He still needed to be doing something, protecting something, even if it was just breakfast. Nightmares again?
No.
The opposite. His voice was soft against her ear. I keep dreaming I'm back there. In Seoul. In the penthouse. And then I wake up and you're here, and I remember. That you're free. That we're free. Amanda turned in his arms. 3 years had changed him in subtle ways. The scar through his eyebrow was still there, but the hardness around his eyes had softened. He smiled easier now. Laughed, even. The man who'd terrified an entire city now spent his mornings fishing and his evenings reading on their porch. He'd learned to be gentle. Zoe called last night, Amanda said, running her fingers through his unstyled hair, longer now, touching his collar. She got the teaching position. Starts in September. That's good. Ji-hoon's thumb traced circles on her hip. She still doesn't know? That her sister's husband used to run Seoul's underworld?
No.
And she never will. Amanda cupped his face. To her, you're just James Park, the quiet guy who saved her life once and married her sister. I did save her life. And then you saved mine by walking away from everything. His eyes darkened with memory. Some days I wonder if they're still looking. They're not. Ji-hoon died in that fire, remember? She kissed him softly. James Park just fixes boats and makes terrible coffee. My coffee's not that bad. It's undrinkable. He smiled, really smiled, the kind that reached his eyes. 3 years ago, she'd never seen him smile like that. Hadn't known he could. The eggs were burning. Neither of them cared. I love you, he said. Not a whispered confession in the dark. Not a desperate promise before battle. Just a simple truth, spoken in sunlight. I know. Amanda turned off the stove. You tell me every morning. I'll tell you every morning for the rest of our lives. That's the deal. She pulled him toward the small kitchen table where coffee waited and the newspaper sat unread. That's what you traded an empire for. Best deal I ever made. They sat together as morning light flooded the kitchen. Outside, the ocean rolled on, eternal and forgiving. Somewhere far away, Seoul moved on without them. A city of neon and shadows where a ghost named Ji-hoon still haunted certain stories. But here, in this sun-drenched cottage, there were only 2 people having breakfast.
No guards. No guns.
No fear. Just Amanda and James. Just love. Just morning.